There's Patrick.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Smiley faced Patrick. You might be the only guy with a smile on
You're
his
the most
face
popular
today, Peach. Look at you.
hairless Patrick in the city right now.
Oh boy,
It's a niche. It's a niche corner, but you take the title right now, which is something.
oh boy.
Yeah. Well, what do you make of what was said, and even reading between the lines, which you don't have to do too much of?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to imagine we're in a world where Luke Shen goes for a second-round pick, 33-year-old Brock Nelson goes for a first-round pick, and Brock Boeser is apparently nothing close to that.
And a top prospect, Brock Nelson. He went for a first-round pick, potential first-line centerman, and a first-round pick.
Yeah, that's the hard thing to imagine. I mean, I want to give Daniel Wagner credit for basically saying, listen, can't you sell your players better? Is that what we're talking about here? And Allvin's going, oh, well, there's analytics and scouts and all that. I guess that efficient market hypothesis that everybody looks at the information the same way. But no, look at what happened. Anthony Beauvillier and Gustav Nyquist, fine, whatever. Both have 13 goals. Depth forwards went for second-round picks. Brock Boeser has 18 goals, was a playoff performer, all these things, and he wasn't worth anything. I don't get the other question. I mean,
it's hard to buy, Patrick.
They're stuck. They're just doing this. They're just treading water. They're trying to keep their head up, and this is a team that has ambitions to contend. They had ambition. They came into this. I mean, Allvin said himself, I can't, building a team through free agency is not sustainable. Well, right. What are you going to do now? You haven't replaced JT Miller. We could all see the scenario. They get the first round pick for Boeser. They turn around, they flip it to somebody else. They get the centerman they need. I don't know who that's going to be. There's a lot of old centers. I have some sympathy on that. But that said, and I'm not, Mikko Rantanen was what it took to get Logan Stankoven, right? But you need.
Should they have found a way? Should they have found a way to get Norris, get Middlestad, get Cousins? Would you have gone hard in that direction if you're Allvin?
My impression is, I think Bruce Garriock said that, but they went for Norris, right? But obviously they weren't. I don't know what your equivalent of Cousins is. This is the other problem: is they don't have a center in the system, right? They don't have a guy that looks like that at all. And that does come back to the point where you're constantly flipping second round picks. They haven't even developed. I mean, we can of course talk about Stankoven. Danil Klimovich is here instead of Logan Stankoven. That is not Patrik Allvin's fault, right?
No.
But there's just not enough there. I mean, you can add all the sort of edge of the roster guys you want. There are Archie Bainses of the world. That's nice, but stars are guys you find in the draft, the young stars, and they've got a winger in Jonathan Lekarmaki, and they've got a defenseman, Tom Friedlander. That's good, but the spine of the team is a problem. They don't have. I mean, I don't know what's the plan. How they're going to have to replace JT Miller. Where's that going to come from? And I'm sitting here thinking, what are the guys in that room thinking? Right? These are guys that have been put through anxiety, knowing that the deadline's coming up. What's going to happen to me? My name's out there. Your name is out there because people are talking about it. Nobody got moved, and you didn't bring anybody else in to make this team better. So what are you doing, man? I really find myself wondering how that room is now going to react to everything that's going on.
Do you know if Aquilini was in the war room today?
I have no idea. We were in his suite. I don't know if Jeff mentioned that, but we had the temporary media room is his suite, but I don't know if he was here today.
I'll just ask the question then. Do you believe he nixed any kind of trades of UFAs because he has designs on the playoffs and that Allvin was just shoveling bullshit?
I have no evidence for that. I pondered the same thought, Matt. I'm not gonna lie, but I don't have any reason to think that is the case. That in the end they set their prices. I mean, we know that they've had high expectations for prices in the past, so that part is not new.
Mm-hmm.
But here they are, this team is not better than it was on paper. It's not even better than it was at Christmas because they still had JT Miller on the roster.
Let me ask you this: Are you aware of any financial difficulties there, concerns about the drop in the Canadian dollar? Are blueberries subject to big tariffs to the United States? Is ownership positioning the team for sale? Are you aware of any financial matters that may have governed the deadline activity here today?
I wish you had suggested this question to me, Matt, because I would have poked around. I mean, I did ask the other day about the tariffs question, about sort of, league revenues, that kind of thing. I don't. I mean, the claim that they need to raise ticket prices to pay players' salary is somewhat specious because so much of league revenue is driven by national TV contracts.
Which there's a couple big ones that have come in, right, with TNT
and
ESPN,
coming and
another huge Canadian one. Yep.
So, it's more, you ask people, like, no, in the end, this is just about trying to see how much money they can bleed out of the market. Which, by the way, a market that has already been feeling the pinch. So, you look at some of the people who have said they're not renewing, like there's center ice seats. Someone I talked to had center ice seats, basically. And his tickets have gone up 48% in 2 seasons. Right. And I don't know if he's going to renew. And there's a lot of people in that boat. So, I don't have any reason. Like I said, the Canucks never tell you about business, and that's been true no matter who's been in charge. Because as long as this owner's been here, as far as I know, they haven't really talked numbers. They've kind of winked at things, maybe when things were good, but certainly not in the time I've been covering this team have they been willing to talk about sort of those kinds of things.
I wouldn't have advocated this, PJ, but why, based on consumer confidence right now, like I know you don't manage for consumer confidence, you don't manage for the fans, but ultimately when we talk about some of the things that you're talking about there, I think you do have to manage some degree. You have to give the fans something to hold on to a little bit here.
Yes. Absolutely.
And again, I'm not advocating that they should have been buyers.
Yeah.
But if they make one small trade, a prospect or a pick for a fringe scoring winger, does it not at least does it give somebody something to hold on to for the final slate of home games and lead you to believe that they're at least in your corner as a fan? And even if selling's the better, sometimes you do have to consider the fan a little bit, don't you?
Well, I mean, listen, you can hear elements of what they are proud of, and you know what? Fair enough. They've reset their defense. They've got a couple young defensemen they're very high on, right? That's important. They feel better about the overall package there. They delivered. I mean, they very high, obviously high on Victor Mancini, and they delivered Elias Pettersson, and Marcus Pettersson has improved their defense. Like the defense score is better. The problem is up front. Like it was Jeff that asked the question: are you guys going to score enough goals to make the playoffs? And I like Pius Suter. I think he's a perfectly fine forward. They need Elias Pettersson to be the player that he's going to be. But they're still down JT Miller. That's the truth. And whether or not he was playing badly is kind of immaterial because at least he was playing. Now those minutes are just completely evaporated. So the scorecard remains at best incomplete, right? Because they've changed some of the mix, and they will go and say, listen, we made our defense better, and there's some things to lean on. We're feeling good about that. But in the end, if this team wants to go to the playoffs, and this is a team that does believe that sort of win and you're in kind of deal, and anything can happen once you're in kind of deal, but they will know. And as I said, they will look around that room and say, I like who's here. I like these guys, but we could sure use another goal scorer. And they don't have that.
Let me ask you this. If they had made a Brock Boeser deal today, for a second-round pick and loose change, something that was clearly below market value,
yes,
then who would have scored?
Do you think that would have been better received than doing nothing?
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. But I guess the point is that you look at what players like Boeser went for. You get a pick, you turn around, you get something else, and you know what? Maybe it wasn't going to work.
That's hard to do on deadline day. I hear what you're saying.
It's hard. Look what Pittsburgh turned around and did things. Yep. Carolina turned around and did things. I get what you're saying. You don't do it on the day. That's, maybe they were hamstrung, I suppose, by Rantanen taking forever to move. If he'd moved yesterday, maybe it was different. But I think, they were clearly trying. I heard they were calling around a couple hours ago at the deadline, right? And I think they were still looking to make a move despite what, Allvin said, listen, they've said, be prepared. We're probably going to be here. But they were still trying to make these moves. Like, that's what I mean. They basically told, we're still trying to trade your guy. So, like, now you're coming into this room and guys are going, oh, well, I guess I'm still, I mean, they're happy to still be here. Pius Suter talked to us. He loves it being here. You know, I'm going to go have my lunch. I'm anxious about my lunch. It was a great line.
And Talk is trying to trade media, guys.
Suter, I think can bounce back here in the last 21 games. What do you think Boeser and Pettersson's mindset can be? Like, we know both of those guys were sort of in tenuous mindsets. We've already heard confirmation from Rick Tocchet. It affected his game. The lack of a contract, the uncertainty of a trade, it's affected his game.
He still doesn't have a contract.
We all know the Pettersson thing. Like, these are guys that have had some stuff to deal with inside their craniums. How do you think they come to any sort of healthy conclusion here to be able to play their best game over the final 21?
Well, I mean, Elias Pettersson, as I think we've noted, has been at least talking the talk. Now he's got to walk the walk. I had a humorous exchange with him this morning. I asked him about 20 face-off wins. Had he ever done that before? And he said, he's like, I don't even know if I've taken 20 face-offs in a game before. And then I said, do you know how many? I said, do you know who the only other player who's won 20 face-offs this season? He goes, no. I said, Sid. And he kind of laughs. He goes, well, why are you guys right about that? And I said, actually, I have. And he goes, oh, okay. And then I said, come on, let's get some goals. He goes, I know. You know,
that's fun.
But like,
well, at least Coach Tocchet and Elias,
he deserves some credit if he turns it around.
Sense of humor today. Somebody at Rogers Arena put a smile on my face today.
But he needs to score some, and he knows it. Like, he's talking about it. Like, that's the bottom line, is that he needs to move on from where he's been. And Brock Boeser, he needs to bring Brock Boeser with him, because Boeser was terrible on the road trip last week. Like, people actually, yes, he needs a guy to pass him the puck. We absolutely know that. But Brock Boeser scored 2 goals in the first 4 games without JT Miller in the lineup, so it's not impossible. He just he needs to get off where he was when he wasn't in a good place going into the deadline. That's for sure.
The Allvin comment on Boeser, if I told you what I was offered for Brock Boeser, I think I would have to run out of here because you would not believe me. To which I would say, Patrik, that's probably the statement I believe the most from your press conference. The rest of it is stuff I don't believe. Here's Steve Warrior, former assistant general manager of the Florida Panthers. This is a horrible thing for a GM to say about any player publicly, let alone one who has given so much to the franchise.
Yeah.
Damages his future earning power, too.
Yeah.
If I'm Ben Hankinson, Brock's agent, I'm calling Alan Walsh's Photoshop guy right now.
Yeah.
About to commission a new work.
Somebody's already done it. They've already seen it out there.
Yeah. What did you make of that statement, and how do you think that will land? And is this all pointing to Brock just walking in free agency because they don't value him all that much? They just want to keep him around to see if they can make the playoffs.
I had the same thought. I mean, I just, like, if you wanted this player, you would have come out and said, we are working on it. But instead they were going in a different direction, right? Like, they were ready and willing to go in a different direction. They've been ready and willing to go in a different direction for a long time. I mean, when we talked to Patrik Allvin, I think it was the All-Star break, or not the All-Star break. Anyway, at the end of January, he was just like, we know where we're at. They know where we're at. We know where they're at. And they need to come to us. And I think they've been leaning on, do you like living here? And now it's like, well, we tried to trade you, but we didn't nobody seems to think you're worth anything. Is that a trade? Like, is that a contract negotiation tactic? Like I just can't imagine. As you said, Ben Hankinson, boisterous personality. I don't imagine you. Yeah, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I do wonder how he's taking that. I absolutely agree.
Yeah, I mean, and here's the other thing: if you don't value Boeser, then trade him, right. And if not for futures, then trade him for something you value more for your playoff push and hopefully playoff run.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, that's
trade him for another UFA. You had a cap space to play with.
Yeah,
Fuck.
Like, that's the thing, and I mean, that's the oddity in all of this. Like, trying to sell your player. He had 7 goals in 12 playoff games last year. But the guy gets it done. He single-handedly won a game. Like, the guy gets it done. And that's the thing. Even you look at, say, look at what Pittsburgh did with Luke Schenn, right? They picked him up the other day. You sort of go, okay, maybe there's a guy they're getting for culture, right? Because they do need culture. And, Luke Schenn's a culture guy. But in the end, call came in. And they said, Kevin Shelly was called in and said, hey, I'm kind of interested in that guy. Yeah. They said, oh, here's an opportunity. Let's arbitrage this up. And they did it. So the idea that you cannot find a way in it, like I said, in a universe where Gustav Nyquist and Anthony Beauvillier were second-round picks, Luke Schenn's worth a second-round pick, Brock Nelson's worth a first-round pick. Like, give me a break. This is a guy He scored 40 goals this year. He's going to score 25 this year. He's a good player. And the analytics
second
are good.
And a fourth. Yeah.
Second and a fourth.
And a fourth.
He might have been their best chip to play to get their next top two center.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where are they finding their next top two center here, Patrick?
That's like I said. That is the question. I mean, in the press conference format, it's tough to. I had to pick and choose. If I'd add a third question, I was gonna be like, "Well, you still haven't replaced JT Miller. How you can do that?" Because I implied, "What are you gonna do?" And Allvin said, "We can't." Adding through free agency answered my question before I even had asked. And adding through free agency is not an easy thing to do. It's a tough way to live. So what are you
You're
going
to overpay for an old guy. You're going to offer
Trade
John
the right-
Tavares, Sun, Moon, and Stars?
Well, Lekramaki and Wielander might be better chips to get your second line center, but you see those guys being a part of your future, right? Yeah. So those are guys you don't want to trade.
I mean, to me, I guess in the end, it lines up that they're just going to make a big, huge pitch in free agency to whatever huge center they can get, and that's going to be where they live.
Well, but who is that guy? Because I love Sam Bennett as a player, but he's not a huge scorer, and you already don't have goals, for God's sakes.
Exactly.
Duchesne is 34 years old. Michael Granlund is 32 years old. John Tavares is 34 years old.
None of that works.
Are you hoping Ryan Donato gets there at 29 years old, and you think he's going to repeat this year, getting all those minutes in Chicago? Or are you going Claude Giroux at 38 years old?
It comes back to the decision to go with Miller, to recognize the sort of the ride the bull the way they did. And I do have some sympathy for them. The way things blew up on them this year, clearly, no one could have anticipated. I think it would go this badly. They knew it was a situation they were going to have to manage. To go so south that the player had to go, as we've been told. That it just was not something that could carry on. They obviously would never have anticipated that was the position they'd find themselves in. They were playing defense from that moment. They got themselves out of that problem reasonably well by adding a defenseman that's going to be useful to them. It was not a forward that's going to be a couple forwards that are going to be useful-ish to them. But they're still down a top two center. Mm-hmm. And they have to find a way to fix that problem. And I think they thought that maybe they would be able to do that involving Brock Boeser. But they didn't, and here they are.
And you did have designs on Brock Nelson, also represented by Ben Hankinson, whose client you just sewered. Wow.
Good player.
Quite a...
Look what he got! Brock Boeser. Look what Brock Boeser should have fetched for such a good player.
Pretty eventful for a non-eventful day.
I'm spent. I'm out of questions.
How long have you guys been on air for? What's going on?
I'm not
too fucking long.
Just the 2 hours.
It's just like the old days.
Well, yeah, we had commercial breaks there, though.
Yeah,
so we'd be done by now at this point.
This is 2 straight hours here, Peach.
Drive time, boys. Remember drive times?
Mm-hmm. Some of us could use a stiff drink and a cigar. So,
there's a game tonight, and I got to go do a whole bunch of other stuff.
And we're going.
We'll have some stiff drinks.
Blake and I are going. We're going to have some stiff drinks.
Can we throw stuff at you? Can we drop stuff from you over the press box?
You can. We're going to commiserate with our friend Daniel from Surrey Mitsubishi, and try to have a raucous Friday night.
Take the pulse of Canucks fans
at the barn that Frank built. Or owns.
Well, no, Arthur Griffiths.
Frank, one Frank built it, another Frank now owns it, and yearning for the first Frank. Thank you, my friend. Until next week, Patrick.
Take care, guys.